If you're like me and you love chickens of all sizes, you've probably got some bantams, and now you've got bantam eggs and are wondering what you're supposed to do with all these little bitty eggs. They're not really big enough to make easy over, and they don't make many scrambled eggs. I guess if you have access to the equipment, you could freeze dry them, but what are some other options? Well, a friend of mine up the road has some grandkids. I want to make a special treat for them, so we're going to make blue pickled eggs. There. If you're like me and like to use farm fresh eggs for your different projects, then you're going to need to know how to clean them too. So let me show you how I do it. The first thing I need to do is fill up my sink with some bleach water. I use 1 tablespoon of bleach per sink load. Then you soak your eggs in it for a few minutes. When they come out, if they're free of debris and they don't feel sticky, they're clean. Next, you need to rinse them off a little bit, get any residue off, and go ahead and put them aside for use. Using bleach to wash eggs, be sure to only soak the eggs for a couple of minutes. It will wash the natural bloom off the eggs. That's the natural protective layer that the hen puts around the egg to keep germs out. So it does reduce the shelf life of the eggs. You can bring that back up some by rubbing the eggs with vegetable oil or canola oil, but it's not as good as the bloom. So if you're going to do this, be sure you're going to use those eggs pretty quick. So you can see, using this method, I only lost 1 egg. So once your eggs are all boiled, peeled, washed, and ready to go, it's time to go ahead and put them in the jars. This is a 20 ounce, or you could say 1.5 pint jar. I like the tall version. I think they just look good. So, we're gonna take our eggs, and we're gonna put a couple eggs in. Remember the cloves? We're going to put a couple cloves and a couple more eggs. And I like to go ahead and put in my cinnamon stick on the side there. And then just a couple more eggs and our last 2 cloves. And then just top it off the rest of the way with the eggs. So that's 12 right there. I want to leave just enough room to cover it to the fill line with the water, which looks like 12 eggs is going to be just pretty much right there at my max. So it's okay if they squished out a little bit. So now let's get our sauce ready. So pickled eggs are actually pretty easy. Believe it or not, it doesn't take that many ingredients, and it's something you can do right there at your house. So the first thing you're going to need are, of course, the eggs. Now, in this case, we're going to do 24 bantam eggs. So here's what I need. So the seasonings I'm going to use for this are celery, fennel, nutmeg. I've got them already measured out, and that is a 1/2 teaspoon of fennel and nutmeg and a full teaspoon of the celery seeds. I'm also going to use some cinnamon sticks and some cloves. Those are right there. This will be enough for 2 jars. 1 cinnamon stick and about 3-4 cloves per jar. You're going to need some salt, sugar. I like to use some honey. It makes it a little bit sweeter, but doesn't up the calorie intake too awfully much. The vinegar and water, you're going to use an equal portion. Basically, we add all of our liquid ingredients, bring them to a boil, and just keep them boiling there. That includes our vinegar, water, sugar, spice mix, salt, honey, and coloring. Keep it boiling for, about 2 minutes or so. And that just gives you that nice deep blue coloring and make sure that all of the spices have a chance to mix together. Super easy. Now comes the fun part. Once you've got your eggs in the jar, your spice mix, and everything is blended and ready to go, it's time to pour it over the eggs. So just very carefully, so you don't make a mess, hurt yourself, or anything else. And look at that wonderful blue color. Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. And you just cover to the top of the eggs, just like that. And I used almost exactly half of my mix, so that's great. That's just what I want to see. Now we just take a trusty little thing here, and we just shift everything to the side. Make sure that that liquid gets around all of the eggs, and that they are fully submersed and covered. That looks great. They're already taking on the blue dye color. I'm so excited. These need to sit in the refrigerator. I'm putting the lid on immediately, by the way. Put that lid on. These are going to go in the refrigerator, and that's what we don't want to hear. When it starts to cool down, that's going to shrink down and hopefully pull that down in. And here in about 2 days, they should have all the flavor in the eggs. They'll be as blue as they're ever going to get, and we should have some beautiful blue pickled eggs to share with my neighbor's grandkids. Gosh, I'm so excited. I can't wait for them to try them. And we're going to check these out in a couple days. I've made up 2 jars just so I can show you what they look like when they're all done. Patience really is a virtue. So I went back to check on the eggs, and one of them, this one in particular, hear that? And you can see the lid right there. Not good. So that right there is bent. I can still save this jar. Those eggs have been fully submersed in that liquid in the refrigerator. They're nice and cool and everything. They are taking on that beautiful blue that we want. We can still save these. We're going to water bath them real quick. So to do that, water bathing is just a process. We get water boiling. You'll notice that little tray in there. That little tray allows the jar to sit in it and stay up above the bottom. And all the little air bubbles and everything go in. So we're going to get a new lid. One that hasn't been bent. That one looks great. I'm going to put that on our jar. Bring that to a boil. And water bath this. The idea being that we get the liquid inside really, really hot again so that that lid will actually suck down. Safety notes about water bathing eggs. First off, it does not increase the shelf life of the eggs. All I'm trying to do is reheat the liquid inside and create a new vacuum seal. So in this case, I thought it was a good way to show you the process of water canning, but I would never use this and recommend that you could pickle your eggs and store them on your shelf. You want to avoid keeping pickled eggs at room temperature at all times. Another note, you'll notice I've got these 4 jars right here full of water. I use them not only to measure out how much water to put into my pot first before I started it to boil, but I'm also going to actually put them in the pot with it. It's because in a big pot like this, you never want to try to water bath less or fewer than 5 jars at a time. So hope all that makes sense to you and helps out a little bit. So our water is boiling and it's time to get our jars in. I'm going to actually start with my good jar. Set it down in there. And I want this to be a low boil, so I'm going to turn my heat down. And then I just set all these other jars in around it. Timer for 5 minutes. That very slight boil, just those little bubbles coming up, means that it's at temperature. That is exactly what we want to see. So now our timer just went off, so we're going to turn the temperature off altogether, and I'm going to let those clear ones just sit in there. I can do this and hold the camera. This is the one of interest. Carefully. I'm going to take our brand new lid and put it on there immediately. I'll let that sit until it reaches room temperature, and that should make that suck down like we want as that cools. I'm going to put a ring on it just loosely, not tight, just loose. Okay, we're going to let that come to room temperature and then put it in the fridge with the other one. Good to go. Already sucked down. That is wonderful. That's exactly what you want right there. Score! I'll let them sit at least one more day, and hopefully tomorrow evening they should be done.
1, 2, 3, 4.
zero poppage. This was the first one. It had already sealed. This is the one we water bathed. That looks great. Let's see how these turned out. That's perfect. Get a spoon. This is basically to keep my hands from becoming blue. Get one out. That is spectacular. Now, if you worry about the dye transferring, you can always rinse these off. Now, let's cut one in half. Oh, that's perfect. Look at that. Is this pretty little blue ring, and it gets just a little bit lighter. The longer you let these sit in the brine, the darker that's going to get. So on the outside, blue, really blue. Still on the inside, no green. It didn't blend with the yellow or anything. So there's a lot of different things you can do with this. Got the stuff here ready, and we're just going to go ahead and take the yolk out. There's that one. One. Now in here I've already got some mayo or Miracle Whip, whichever you prefer, and a little bit of mustard. That's good there. Take our spoon. Yeah, that looks perfect. And we don't need that much. These are small ones, so you just need a little bit. Okay, and you've got blue deviled eggs. So that's one option. You can also take the eggs of course. And slice them. And you end up with blue rings. And look what we've got. Aren't those super cute? I think the kids are going to love these. Let's see. Let's see how they taste. That is like a deviled egg with like a little bit of a sweet kick. It's really good. That's really good.